And welcome back to a community collective. Here we've got another entry into the deck tech series for Interdimensional Transcendence. I'm Cole.
And I'm Trey.
And today we're covering something that Trey is pretty excited about. It's Daiyusha.
The super Robo, dimensional Robo, Daiyusha. He's making his way back. We get another encounter deck. Let's go. So to get started, he has Vanguard once per turn skill. It says when this unit attacks, cost counterblast 1 and draw a card. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, choose any number of your units with Dimensional Robo in their different card names, and they get plus 5k power until end of turn. You could give all your units past 5k, which is pretty good. And then, once per turn, at the end of the battle, this unit attack cost, put a card from hand into soul, stand this unit, and it gets drive -2 until end of turn. If your bind zone does not have a dimensional Robo Daiyusha, and you Persona Road this turn, cost bind a dimensional Robo Daiyusha from soul, and this unit gets drive +1 until end of turn. So, double attacking Vanguard gets power and it gets that third drive in on your Persona Ride turn is pretty all right. Very good, I think.
Yeah, I think this Vanguard's kind of like deceptively simple. He's got a lot that can go into making what kind of reads as like not super threatening into something worth like looking out for, especially with what's coming up here with its ride line. Just from this though, do you think it's enough to close out a game?
I think it's going to be enough for this deck specifically because of its rear guard support. The rear guards do quite a bit, and it's going to be pushing decent numbers. And it has only like a counterblast 1 or put a card from hand to soul, which allows you to, kind of cycle things from your soul. So I don't know if it's going to be fantastic, especially because you're wanting to bind your ride line grade 0. So it'll be interesting that it only gets the additional drive once, but you're getting a lot from your rear guard, so I think it's pretty decent and it's pretty balanced, I think.
Yeah. So with that, let's go into the ride line, starting with the Super Dimensional Robo Dilander. When he's placed, you get a base card from your deck, and it goes into your hand. And when he's placed on Rearguard Circle from Soul by your card's ability, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Daiyusha, all of your Vanguards and this unit get plus 5k. So I remember when I first read this card and it searched for a base, I was like, oh boy, is this deck getting the government mandated set order because of the Prankgate deck?
Yes, it is, and honestly, I'm kind of glad it's a base card because then it can also kind of go into B heroes, I think.
Sure.
So that'll be an interesting tech, but that's a different story. But for what this deck does, searching for bases is going to be very prevalent, so it's a good thing that it has that effect, and the fact that it can give a lot of units plus 5k, or it gives the Vanguard grade 3. So if you call it to rear guard behind the Vanguard, then you just get that extra 10k to the column, and it's just very good, I think.
Oh yeah. And then we've got this grade 2 Die Dragon. When he's rode upon by Daiyusha, you can just call him from Soul, and when he's placed on RC from Soul by your card's ability, so it's its own ability, I guess. If you have a Daiyusha Vanguard until end of turn, he gets the red text of when your Vanguard is attacked, you can retire him and give your Vanguard power plus 15k until the end of that battle and plus 5k power. So weirdly a super defensive card.
Yeah. It's a good one of defensive card.
Yeah.
I feel because obviously it's getting called by the soul ability. So giving the 15k for the one battle, as well as giving 5k as like a permanent until the end of your opponent's turn, is just pretty good because it turns your 13k Vanguard into an 18k. And we really don't see a whole lot of permanent stats on defensive side other than like MLB.
Yeah.
Being one of those. that's more than just a 13k. So it's going to create some difficult like attacking numbers for multi-attack decks and things. So an 18k base on a turn is pretty good.
Yeah, my only worry about this is the fact that it needs to like retire itself to give Daiyusha 15k for a battle. So if it doesn't live out of like a retire matchup or whatever, it might not do a ton. But at least it's maybe diverting some pressure away from the Vanguard either way.
Yeah, it's going to be a target of attacks from rear guards for sure.
Which isn't always a bad thing. I think that's kind of it doing its job one way or the other. But
Correct.
let's see what triple rare this deck gets in this set.
This one is getting the Super Dimensional Robo Die Lady. This one has an auto when this unit is placed on rear guard circle. If your Vanguard with Dimensional Robo in its card name, cost, counterblast 1, search your deck for up to 1 base, reveal it, put it to hand, and shuffle the deck. Also gets the rear guard when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater unit. If your order zone has 2 or more bases, this unit gets power plus 10,000 until the end of battle. So just a 20k beater if you're attacking a grade 3 or greater unit. So if you're attacking Vanguard, as you should be, it's just 23k. 20k. As a bases should have 2 in your order zone by the time you get to your grade 3 or your opponent's grade 3. So you get the consistency of finding 1 from the ride line from your grade 1, and you get the consistency of when this is placed, you search the deck for 1. So it allows you to almost guarantee you're getting 2 in the order zone at all times.
Yep, and I guess we should see what that order does. And it's the Super Dimensional Fortress die base. If you have a Dimensional Robo Vanguard, you can arrest it to Energy Charge. Choose up to 2 grade 2 or less cards with a D-Robo in its card name from your drop and put them into Soul. If this card was put into the order zone this turn, you may search the deck for that card instead of choosing it from drop. If you search the deck, you shuffle the deck. And if you've got a Dimensional Robo Vanguard, you can Energy Blast 2 and rest this card to choose a grade 2 or less card with a Dimensional Robo in its card name from your Soul and call it. So this is a lot of text to basically say, oh, you can kind of fill your Soul with D-Robos and then call them out later to kind of get these on-place effects from card ability from Soul that like Die Dragon has and Die Lander and all that. And it's trying to, kind of help you build a board and not need to worry too much about doing so from your hand, so you can buff as much of your board as possible with Daiyusha.
Yeah, it's going to guarantee that you need like 3 or 4 of these in your order zone at all times. Having to, is could be enough. Because you're, if you use the first skill, you can put 2 into Soul. But the second one, you only call 1. So you're not going to build board as much. So really having 3 is like your sweet spot. So you can call 2 rear guards, 3 if you want to call 3 rear guards from Soul, which is very doable. So Energy Blasting 2 is kind of heavy, but getting 3 a turn. If you use the first skill once, then you're kind of neutral with the calling 2. So just going to be very good. And I have to say, I am so glad that they made it a grade 0.
Oh, yeah.
It is with other newer decks that have gotten orders that you need to have multiple in the order zone. Getting them at grade 2 just kind of makes those decks feel awful. So having this so where you can play this all the time and start charging up your Soul with cards from drop that you discard and things feels like it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, and so the main thing that this card is going to enable is this other block of text that is Die Battles. And it's a grade 1 that in the Soul, if your Vanguard is specifically Die Dragon, your opponent's Vanguard is grade 2 or greater, and your Soul has a Daiyusha, Die Lander, and Die Mariner, you can put a card from hand into Soul to choose one Daiyusha from your ride deck and write it as stand. And when he's placed on RC from Soul by your card's ability, if you have a Daiyusha grade 3 Vanguard, your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, your Vanguard's original critical becomes 2. I think this card is the whole deck.
This card enables the whole deck. Absolutely.
Yeah, it wants to like superior ride early. It wants to go into Daiyusha early, which is such a unique spin on what a Dimension Police wants to do. And then the giving the crit is very on brand, I think.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because you're gonna have to mulligan really hard for both Die Mariner and Die Battles. Like you have to have those two and discard them early. One will automatically put itself into Soul, whereas the other you have to use the base to put it into Soul itself. So it's going to create some very interesting early games. But the fact that it can just say, "Hey, I'm gonna try to hit you for 2 as my Vanguard," very early is just nice.
I think the nice thing about like how Die Battles and Die Mariner and Die Bases is worded. Well, let's just read Die Mariner first, I guess. He's another grade 1 that when he's discarded from hand during your return, you can put him into Soul. And when he's placed on rearguard circle from Soul by your card's ability, if you have a Daiyusha Vanguard, you can give him plus 2k and your opponent cannot intercept. And I think what I want to key on is that it can put itself into Soul if it's discarded, because basically all you need to see is one copy of the base, because you can get one from the ride deck, and then on your turn end, you can like the turn you place the base, you can rest it to energy charge, and because you placed it that turn, you can search your deck for any D Robo card and put it into Soul, so you can set up Die Battles turn 1, and then on turn 2 you can play the other Die Base and get Die Mariner in there, so you have everything you need for this. It's actually not too hard to set up.
Yeah, it's gonna be fairly consistent, I feel. Obviously, we'll see once it actually comes out. But the fact that you're going to run a bunch of your pieces, it allow you to kind of get everything early, which is going to be really nice.
Yeah, it's weird because when you look at these cards and then you look at Daiyusha himself, he needs to Persona Ride, and so it's weird because I guess on your turn 3, if you superior ride this guy with Die Mariner and or is it it's Die Battles. If you superior ride it with Die Battles on your turn 3, you can then just Persona Ride and immediately do this heavy push with the 3 drive checks and maybe even the can you get
additional critical
early? Oh, you can't get the additional crit early. I guess that's fair. But
the fact that it has either instances of going first or second to give you that cheat to grade 3 or the extra pressure from your grade 3 is just very, very nice.
Yeah, either way, you're getting to grade 3 much earlier than your opponent. And in the best case scenario, if you're going second, you can also get that extra crit. So yeah, it's so weirdly interpreted for what Dimension Police is doing in Standard, but it's still very Vanguard centric and it's still very aggressive. It's trying to do that big push with its Vanguard. So I think it did its job pretty well.
Oh, 100%. I think it's pretty good. It gives a lot of interesting things here, but it comes, it's got a great comeback to Standard with a new, albeit classic twist on the Vanguard-centric playstyle of the clan. So it kind of keeps it fairly Vanguard when it, makes it so that you restand with it. You also get cards from its first skill, but kind of shifts it a little bit around to make it well-rounded. It's more focused than ever on its rear guards, so it's facilitating all the the power to the rear guard from the rear guards, which is very, very nice. So it creates a interesting kind of semi old but also new version of what the this dimensional police are. So very nice. With the addition of an order used to set up your soul and board, it finds a new way to combine your units. So um, adds consistency, does a whole lot from just having a nice little grade 0 order to help move everything along. The pseudo divine skill that it has with the Vanguard using the grade 0 to bind itself on a persona ride turn really does say, hey, this is my kill turn. I'm going to try to punch through and kill on this turn alone. So kind of nice that it's a one of. And it is completely self-contained to this set. So another good budget version of a deck for any player getting into Vanguard in this set. So super excited for this deck. Cannot wait to play it.
Go ahead.
Rotovisor walked so Daiyusha could run. Like it's
Yeah.
so sad they destroyed Nova Grapplers and are, you know, I say destroyed. They did them kind of dirty, but they're doing Dimension Police a lot better.
Yeah, I think I've always admired Dimension Police from afar, and I think maybe lately I've kind of had a bigger desire to build it in premium, but I think having it in standard, at least in some capacity, will be a really nice for the people that have been waiting a long time. Because I know that this is one of those clans where if it's your favorite clan, like you kind of let people know. So I'm glad they finally have the opportunity to, go back to the good old days with Daiyusha. But I think that'll wrap up this deck tech. If you watched until the end, thanks. If you like this kind of content, let us know how you feel about this deck in the in the comments, and like the video. And be sure to subscribe for other ones of these coming out, and keep up with all the other stuff we're coming up with. So until then, I was Cole.
And I was Trey.
And we'll see you in the next one.